Hey everyone, just a quick announcement before the podcast gets started. This is Brooke, one of the Viterbi admission counselors here, and I'm so excited to announce that we are going international. In the next month, we will be in Mumbai, New Delhi, Beijing, Shanghai, and London. So if you are interested in learning more about our engineering and computer science programs and live near one of these great cities, register online now at viterbi.link/events. That's viterbi.link/events. Now let's get that podcast started.
This is Viterbi Voices.
Coming to you from the University of Southern California, Viterbi School of Engineering.
We're here to give you the inside scoop on research, classes, student life, and so much more.
All of these shared by students, faculty, alumni, and other members of the USC community.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Viterbi Voices. As usual, I am one of your hosts. My name is Paul Ledesma. I'm the Executive Director of Undergraduate Admission here at the USC Viterbi School of Engineering.
And hi, my name is Safia Patel. I'm a senior studying computer science and doing my master's in engineering management, and I'm your other co-host for the podcast.
Safia, how's it going? First week of classes? Yay, nay, medium?
It's been interesting. It's a medium, I'd say. Obviously really exciting to see everyone back on campus, see all the people I missed over the summer, but also did not want to be back at classes in general. I don't know, I'm still trying to get a feel of my schedule.
Senior year.
Yeah, senior year, it's kind of scary. I feel like I'm running out of time.
Are you just kind of over it? Is that what's going on?
No, I was actually like during the summer, I was really excited to go back to school. Not because I didn't like my internship or anything, just because I missed the people. And I always have fun at school. Like there's always something going on.
Yeah.
And I just like the college feel. But then I got to school and I slept in my twin bed for the first time. And I woke up and I was like, I can't do this anymore. And it was day one. It was so bad. And that day I also have a 4-hour class from 6 to 10 p.m. because it's a master's class.
Oh, what class is that?
It's called Leading and Managing Engineering Teams.
Oh, 4 hours. 1 day a week?
Yeah, thankfully.
Yeah. Those grad classes, man, they pile everything from a week into 1 day.
They'll really get you. But to be fair, my first assignment is just to take the 16 personalities test. So
Okay.
it's not too bad so far.
Cool. Well, I'm sure we've got lots to talk about, and I don't want to waste too much time on the intro part of the podcast. And stick around after the episode. Sophie and I will catch up and see how this first week has really gone. I'm sure like you've had meetings, you've had classes, you already got assignments. We've got football games that are coming up here that are kind of crazy. Everything's back. Everything's fall. It's kind of weird. I'm kind of weirded out by it. I think it's still summer. But anyway, this episode, as we're recording this, I haven't yet decided what our title of this is going to be. So as you're listening to this, you know more about this than I do because I can't figure out what I want to title this. But let me tell you a little bit about who you are about to listen to. You're about to listen to a really amazing guy. His name is Breece Phipps. Breece is a graduate of the Viterbi School of Engineering. Safia, a fellow transfer student, someone who transferred in as a transfer student, earned both his bachelor's and his master's in the same year, mind you. He got his bachelor's and master's in the same year through progressive degree in 2022. He got his bachelor's in astronautical engineering, and he also got his master's in aerospace engineering. And I'm sorry, yes, aerospace and astronautical engineering. That is the overall vibe. He is currently a propulsion system flight controller at NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration.
That sounds like a mouthful for you, Paul.
I know, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. He has previously interned, oddly enough, at Shayna's company from our last episode. He used to intern at the Millennium Space Systems company. As a student, he was involved in the liquid propulsion laboratory. Also did some cool stuff in satellite formation flying. And I am burying the lead here because he is what we would refer to as a non-traditional student. He didn't go high school to college. He had a rather circuitous route to get to college that involved being incarcerated. He spent time in prison, and he has a really cool story. I'm going to let him tell that story of where he's been, what he's done, how he turned everything around, got into college, is now doing some amazing things at NASA. And on top of all that, he recently just founded a coffee company that he's doing, I guess, in his free time, where he's selling small batch, locally roasted coffee there in Houston, of which you'll hear me say this to him. I have the coffee. I ordered it from him before the podcast. I'm drinking it currently. It is delicious. It is fantastic.
Really?
It's called Space Fox Coffee. We'll talk about how that name came to be, but let's get out of the way and hand it right over to the Space Fox himself, Breece Phipps.
Hey, what's going on? How you doing, man?
Breece, how are you?
I'm doing well. Good to hear from you. Good to meet up again, man. This is awesome.
Oh, good, man. Good. It's really, really good to see you.
You too, you too. I have one of these snowball mics, so I think that should be good.
Yeah, you're good to go. The closer you are to it, the better.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I'm ready for the radio gig. I had this cool little
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's very cool. Am I coming through? It looks like my video is frozen. Am I coming through on your end?
The video is frozen, but I can hear you clearly.
I don't know. I'm having some weird issues here today. Let's see what's going on. There we go.
There we
Better?
go. Yep.
I think I confused my computer right before we came on and did a bunch of stuff to it. Oh man, it's really, really good to see you. Thanks for being here for this. I appreciate it, making yourself available.
Yeah, of course.
So walk me around this set. Is this your home office?
Yep, exactly.
Because am I seeing like a 3D printer back there? I'm seeing like you're doing some hardware construction. What's going on back there?
Yeah, so that's one of the 3D printers, that we purchased. Basically, it does a laser engraving, 3D printing, and CNC mill. So really, we just did it to kind of do cool projects, but now I kind of use it for the business as well. Doing
That's
some
awesome.
cool coasters and things like that.
That's really cool.
Got to keep that engineering, experience on.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so you're in Houston now.
Yep, exactly.
Wow.
In Southeast Houston, so a suburb of Houston called Clear Lake, which is like down the street from the Johnson Space Center.
All right, so easy to get to work then.
Exactly. After I left downtown LA, I'm like, no more, no more traffic. That was the main thing. I did not want to commute.
That's awesome. That's really, really cool, man. How long have you been down in Houston now?
A little over 2 years.
Wow, very cool. And how are you liking it?
The weather's crazy. I went through my first hurricane. That was an experience. It was a level 1, so it wasn't nothing, but still.
Oh man.
For this California boy, I was stressed out.
I can't imagine what it would be like to go through a hurricane. We've talked about it before, in that some people are always worried about earthquakes, and it's like, yeah, they come and go. It's not a big deal, but like hurricanes seem like it's a whole different world to me. Maybe that's just a me thing. I don't know about you.
Yes, I felt the same way. I'm like, oh, we got to get out of here, man. This is gonna, I thought the worst.
Yeah,
but it really wasn't too bad. The main thing was the loss of power. Some people had power loss for over 8 days, which was pretty crazy. Luckily, we only had it for a day and a half.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
oh
so
my
that
gosh.
was the worst. It's humid and it's hot, and just like, oh, I would not be able to live like that.
Oh wow, man. Oh well. Anyway, I am glad you're here. I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad you're okay, and you survived your first hurricane. Although I think we probably got more to go, right?
Right. It's not the last one for sure.
Yeah. And thanks for being on the podcast. I really appreciate it. I think it would be great for people to hear about you and your story. Tell me a little bit about where you grew up, and like, how did Breece come into play? What was this whole thing about? Where you grew up in Sacramento, is that right?
Yep, exactly. So in East Sacramento, so a suburb of Sacramento, which is called Rancho Cordova. Just definitely like a lower socioeconomic kind of, neighborhood. My environment was pretty trash, to be honest. There was not a lot of like great examples, or because my parents were always great, like they always, I was one of the only friends that had parents that were together.
Oh,
That was a blessing, having my parents that have been married close to 40 years now. So having that was always, a blessing. But the environment, it takes a village to raise a child, as they say.
yeah.
So that was a big difference. So the community I grew up in was just infested with drugs, gang violence, stuff like that. And as a teenager, you kind of fall into that, So it was kind of like that was the turning point in my life, because I was always good in school, academically, elementary school, middle school. I was eighth grade president, so I did a lot of, academic involvement on campus. But as soon as high school hit, it was a different story.
Really?
Yeah. And that was kind of like I guess the downfall, the downward spiral of events that occurred. And really, I kind of fell or succumbed to, America's opioid drug epidemic. So that was, I became a statistic on that. I started using pharmaceuticals, and that really was, the initial, snowball effect that, turned my life down that path, because it
Mhm.
was really, I guess, hard to, as a teenager, not to fall under that, especially when doctors and things like that are, prescribing this type of medication, like it's
Yeah.
nothing. It's
Makes you
really,
feel like it's okay.
yeah,
Doctors prescribe this, it must be okay.
it's synthetic heroin is what it really is,
Yeah.
So at that point, it just came worse and worse, drug addiction. I was basically addicted for years, as a teenager going into my early 20s. And then, heroin is a cheaper option. So basically, people would usually switch over to that instead of pharmaceutical pills like, morphine, Percocet, Oxycontin, things like that.
Hmm.
So really, that was the kind of downfall in life that I was living in my early 20s. So yeah, that was
Wow.
crazy to think about.
Yeah, it's interesting to tell your story, and it's interesting to do you think it's better to talk about it chronologically? Like I realized I said, hey, let's start in the beginning, and then I realized, or should we go backwards? Like, because the way I think the introduction before you come on to the podcast, right before people would have heard me say who you are, I would have said like, here is a non-traditional student, right? Someone who
Yeah,
didn't go straight from high school into college and then had a lot of different turns, including time in prison.
yeah,
And I think your story is so unique. It's also complex. And so I don't want to
yeah.
skip over anything. I don't want to, call it whatever, because it's also a lot of pain you went through too.
Yeah, it's a lot to unravel, that's for sure. Like where to start, as maybe a child, teenager here, but I mean, we could start where I kind of am now,
Okay.
or go through, that kind of chronological order. Because I was just thinking that when I started the story, just, as a teenager, moving through those points,
Yeah.
to where I am now. And like you said, drug addiction, and with drug addiction comes, like a lot of drama, incarceration, things like that.
Yeah.
You become somebody that you're not true to yourself. When someone is facing drug addiction and things like that, that's not the true person, so
No.
it turns you into somebody else, which I always was like this person deep down inside. But, the community, the culture, the mindset has an effect on you. So growing up in that environment, made me go through and change my, kind of path in that direction.
Maybe, it might be interesting. Let's keep flip-flopping.
Okay.
So we know in high school you start using drugs, you start going down this path. We know that in high school or in high school in the future you're about to go to prison and have a bunch of other problems.
Yep.
But now let's Pulp Fiction this. Let's go to the future. Now, introduce yourself. Who are you? What do you do? What's your job? We teased it a little bit, but let's keep flip flopping because I think I like the coin
Okay.
flip here.
Yeah, I
Let's go
like it.
back
I
and
like
forth.
it. The tale of two,
Yeah, it's
heads,
the two Breeces.
Definitely. There's a before, that, and then after Breece. I like to look at it.
Yeah.
And right now, basically, my job title is Propulsion System Flight Controller. So I work at the Johnson Space Center, working with the Artemis program. So that's basically, getting humans back to the moon and then eventually Mars. So for me, it was always like a really big passion of mine to be in the aerospace industry. My true goal is to become an astronaut, so that's the reason I,
Yeah.
moved my whole life from California, came to Houston, pursuing that dream. And it all started with my grandfather. He worked in the aerospace industry when I was a kid, so he helped with the
Oh,
Apollo missions. So that was
wow.
like a big, kind of influence on me. So after everything occurred, I knew I wanted to pursue this career and goal. It was a brand new me, a new drive, new person, kind of like a metamorphosis happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
That what really occurred. So yeah, now I'm currently here in Houston, like I said, at the Johnson Space Center working on the Artemis program.
That's amazing. So tell us a little bit more about Artemis. What's the program and where are we in the stages of that? Where is it going?
Yeah, Artemis basically is the twin sister of Apollo. So they use Greek mythology, like they did in
Mhm.
the 60s, 70s. Apollo, Artemis now is the new generation going back to the moon and Mars. There's been so much work, tremendous work done by people before me and us now. Basically, we're working with private industry to develop an infrastructure to get back to the moon. So we're working with Blue Origin, SpaceX, a bunch of other providers, all these people coming together to develop vehicles, develop human landing systems, capsules, everything in order to build this infrastructure and space station around the moon and then take humans to the lunar surface and beyond.
That's great. And as a propulsion system flight controller, maybe let's talk to, majority of people understand NASA only and how it's represented in movies.
Mm-hmm.
So who are you in the movie, right? So when we see all these, Apollo space missions, or even just the other day I watched Armageddon, who are you in Armageddon? Like who,
We are basically Houston. We have liftoff. We are the mission flight controllers on console driving a vehicle. So
Wow.
that is us. So we specifically me and my job is the propulsion system. So I basically control everything on the propulsion system, initiating valves, turning this, watching the propellant system, making sure everything is going nominally on the propulsion of the vehicle. I like to think of it as like, the engineers and designers are the designers of the race car and we're the drivers.
That's
So basically
amazing.
they hand us this finished vehicle. We have to learn it inside and out and then be able to drive it, maneuver it. If stuff occurs, get it back into proper configuration.
And what vehicles have you driven or are you about to drive?
Right now, I'm getting certified in both SLS and Orion. So SLS is the launch vehicle. So basically the one that takes Orion into orbit. My specific console is the engines console. Once I'm certified, I'll be sitting in that console. So basically the RS-25 engines on the SLS rocket. And then when I'm certified on the Orion capsule, working the propulsion system for the service module and the crew module for Orion.
That's amazing. That's really cool. Do you ever pinch yourself and say like you're living your boyhood dream?
Definitely, because like I said, the reason, flight controllers we work with astronauts all the time. We're teaching them about our system, basically we're the ones talking to them, Capcom, propulsion, flight, everybody's working together as like an orchestra to, make sure that they're safe, the vehicle's safe, everything is working in accordance. So it's cool to be like, we're working with the Artemis 2 crew and then the Artemis 3 crew, which in the future is going to be the next human that lands on the moon. So it's like, this is incredible, it's just cool to think about.
When do you think that's happening? The land
The
Artemis
goal
3.
right now is 2026 to
Okay.
land. That's the goal. Artemis 2 is supposed to occur next year in 2025 in September. So basically the Artemis 2 crew is going to go around the moon, test the Orion capsule, and then Artemis 3 is going to be them landing on the moon.
Wow. And for the lay person out there, why is it important to go back to the moon?
If we ever want to be like Elon Musk says, a multi-planet species, it's important that we use that as a jumping point to build infrastructure. Living off the planet is super important to experience and learn before we go to actually another body. But I don't think people also realize like all the technology, everything that was developed from NASA and the Apollo program, the science, there's like memory foam, water filters, everything that was a spinoff from the NASA technology.
Meaning what we use in our day-to-day lives today. Yeah.
Day-to-day life. Yeah. So there's over 2,000 spin-off technologies from the aerospace industry and NASA just trying to accomplish these great feats, and push the envelope of human ingenuity.
That's amazing.
So to me, it's like I love, being a part of human spaceflight, especially the human aspect of it, because we sent a bunch of rovers and I love, perseverance and all that, but human spaceflight is a different, level.
Other than the fact that you're dealing with a human being that you don't want to die, what are the what are the other complications involved in human spaceflight?
That's definitely the
It's
top
the biggest one, probably.
Yeah, that's definitely the number one. To make sure they don't die.
Don't die.
Get them back safely. But then it's also the vehicle. There's so much work that goes into, I've been working with Blue Origin a lot, and I've been going to Denver and meeting with them, and just because we contracted them for their human lander system. So them and SpaceX are going to be our two companies that are building this human lander system, because there's multiple points, so we launched Orion. Orion meets up with the human lander system or gateway, and then the human lander system takes them down to the lunar surface. So there's like multiple companies and multiple people interacting together just to get humans to the lunar surface. So
Okay.
just seeing their work and their involvement of development with the design of their vehicle, it's just they're trying to develop technology that's not been done before. So that's
amazing.
just a whole other, kudos to them.
I think a lot of people are a little confused as to how the space industry works because most people grew up thinking there was just NASA.
Yeah.
And then there's people thinking at one point that NASA's gone, and they're not gone.
Yeah.
But then the
That's
rise of the private space company, Blue Origin, SpaceX, there's a lot of news right now related to Boeing. There's a lot of news
Yeah,
related to
Boeing
SpaceX.
Starliners. My coworkers are the ones flying the Starliner vehicle, so they're man, they've been getting so much heat. But it's like NASA is like the infrastructure. We developed this space industry. Now we're opening up to private industry. So really,
Mhm.
that's the big difference now. The relationship has changed between government agency and the private sector. So now, like, okay, we can have private companies do this for us. So that's the big difference.
Like contract out specialties and things like
Yeah,
that.
exactly. So we had the Commercial Crew Program, which is supposed to be Starliner and SpaceX take astronauts to the International Space Station.
Yeah.
But he's been hearing Starliner has been having trouble, so
Yeah.
it's been all SpaceX taking our astronauts to the ISS. But it's supposed to be both of them. We want to have multiple providers, multiple companies, involved. It's just building the American aerospace industry. Even like I give really a big kudos to SpaceX because they really like reignited the space industry.
Yeah.
Before after the space shuttle, was decommissioned, we were flying all our astronauts on the Russian launch vehicle.
Mhm.
So there was no astronauts flying from American soil for years. I think 9 years before SpaceX developed their vehicle. So now all that's returning to the U.S. So that's inspiring. And just what he's doing with the boosters, like re-landing them, that's
Yeah.
the reusability that's unheard of as well.
There's another thing that comes to mind. I'm curious to get your take on it. Relativity space with
Oh
their
yeah, I
3D
love it. Yeah,
3D
USC alumni.
USC
Let's
alum, right? Yeah.
go. Yeah, I
3D
know.
printed rockets.
Yeah,
How is that on your guys' radar? And what do you
that's
guys?
freaking incredible. I love what relativity's doing. That's unheard of as well. It's fully 3D printed rockets. That's crazy. But it's another thing. They're a different type of launch vehicle. There's different sizes of vehicles. So, like the Starship and booster, that's supposed to be a Mars vehicle, like a lunar vehicle. That's different from just sending payloads into space, like satellites into LEO or
Got it.
high Earth orbit. So they're on the smaller scale, but it's still incredible, like the technology that they're using. And they have a lot of places in Stennis that they're testing. So NASA's working with Relativity, at the Stennis site. They have a bunch of companies there. What is it? Ernest Major, Relativity, Blue Origin. They're all testing their engines there at the NASA facility.
Oh,
So
okay.
there's a big relationship between the private and government.
Wow. Okay. Now we're gonna switch back.
Okay.
So let's because I have so many other questions, but I want to find our way there. Where
Yep.
eventually these two stories are going to meet in the middle.
So, somehow.
Tell because I think you and I have actually never actually talked about your past. I know about your past because I was involved in the admission process when we
Mhm.
went through, and I know you and Becky talked about it a lot back in
Yep.
the day. But you and I have never actually spoken about it. So tell me what happened. What happened in high school? What happened afterwards? And how did you eventually find your way into becoming a transfer applicant to USC? That's a long journey, I know.
It is.
And I'm curious, like the years involved and everything else, because I think that's where a lot of people would be super interested on this path that you've taken.
How much time do we have?
Well, to the point that you're comfortable, and if I ever hit something where you're like, yeah, I don't want to talk about it, just let me know, and
Uh,
I can just remove my question. We can edit it
no,
out.
no,
So I
no
don't
worries. To be honest, I was concerned when I first got released, what people would think of me, coming from that has the stigma versus,
release from prison.
get released from prison, you face tatted, crazy maniac. That's what people expect. I lost jobs over it,
No,
which
to be
is
clear, you don't have face
no,
tattoos.
no, not
Like
at all. I have
people aren't
zero
looking at you right
tattoos.
now.
No, but that's what they expect when they think about,
Right, right,
someone coming out of prison.
right.
Which I mean, starting all the way back from, like I said, a teenager and the drug use and the downward spiral of everything. I kind of blame drugs for it all, but I don't want to blame my friends either because now I want to take full accountability for my life and my decisions.
Yeah.
And maybe I wasn't taking that accountability back then. I just blamed in my environment, blamed everybody else. And
Hmm.
then, like, really, that was at the downward rock bottom of everything. I had multiple arrests. Things were just, my life was terrible, to be honest, to be frank. I hated where I was at. I was a high school dropout, didn't graduate high school. I ended up getting my GED at 21. So it was just like, I was barely making it, and I was just kind of in this vicious circle of drug addiction and environment, and I didn't see a way out, to be honest. I just thought my life was kind of like gonna go nowhere, which is crazy to think about
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
where I'm
Yeah.
at. And then ultimately, like my drug addiction and my arrest sent me to prison for 3 years. So that was like a major turning point. And I knew that day, this was in 2012 in November. And I remember the exact day because that was the last day I did anything. My lawyer basically told me, okay, they're going to remand you today. You're going to prison. Basically, it's over. And I really thought at that point my life was over.
Yeah.
Like
I can
it was
imagine.
devastating to say the least. Like I was a heroin addict on my way to prison. The only worst thing in my mind was death at that point. It was just so traumatic.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, you really messed up this time, Breece. This is this
Right.
is crazy.
Right. Right. Rock bottom.
So, yeah, rock bottom for sure, which was, to be honest, the crazy to think about it now was the best thing that ever happened to me,
Yeah.
in retrospect, because it took me away from everything. It was kind of liberating in a sense, where it was like all that, pain and suffering and addiction and hurt, family, because you're not just hurting yourself, you're hurting your family and friends, community, all of it. So basically doing that and coming and being able to like clear my mind and change myself internally was like a huge part of it, which was at the time I was like the worst thing ever, but now it's
Yeah.
like the best thing ever. So yeah, that was basically leading into prison,
Where did you go to prison?
I was basically, I did my arraignment, all that in Placer County, which is in Northern California. Then I was sentenced to DVI, which is a reception. So when you go to prison, they send you to a place called reception. You're supposed to stay there for 30 to 50 days. They, evaluate you, they test you, and kind of see where you're at level wise, because the prison system has 4 levels, level 1 through 4. Level 1 is like people like me, your minor, drug addiction, stuff like that. Level 4 is the murderers, people doing life. So they don't allow people to, be together on different levels, because
Uh,
you have 2, 3 years, somebody with life doesn't really care. They got nothing
right.
to lose. So really they evaluate you and then they send you to the prison that you're going to go to. And I was actually sent to Folsom Prison over in Sacramento, which is a pretty hardcore prison, but it was close to my family, so.
That's yeah. So at least maybe was there visiting
Yep,
opportunities?
yep, definitely. And that's why, like, my parents are freaking awesome. They came and visited me every week. They never gave up on me, even though I put them through hell, right?
Yeah.
They never gave up on me, always supported me. So for me to like, see that love and, the devastation, I was more mad at myself for, getting there, how I put myself in the
Hmm.
position and these
Hmm.
decisions that I made. So for me, it was just like, I was so upset with me, you know,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
kind of like a fire in my soul to like change. And that's what really, and I used prison to kind of do that. So I had the time and I learned the discipline. I started working out, started doing college in prison, because I knew I had this vision of like, okay, getting back to school, doing aerospace, just different things in life that I wanted to change. And that was like one of the founding things, was going back to school. So
So all of the context and the distraction and the everything's gone,
yeah,
and at
gone.
that point you achieve this sense of clarity and purpose, and you're like, okay, now this is what I was meant to do. Help us understand what again, I go back to movies. We know what prison is like via movies. What is prison like? What's your day to day?
It's hardcore, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
I bet.
Especially being in the California prison system. I'm not sure about other states, but California prison system is pretty hardcore. It's all racial segregation. Since I was a white guy, even though my mom's Mexican, I look white and I came from Sacramento County. Basically, it's just a whole level of similar to the movies where it's all racial segregated. You got to go meet up with the freaking head honcho shot caller. You got to give them your paperwork. They got to make sure you're not a child molester or elderly abuse beater, because you can't walk the general yard if you're one of those. So
Oh,
it's like really, really crazy hierarchy of, shot callers. You can't eat with other races. You can't do this with other races. Mandatory workouts. It's very militant,
wow.
hardcore military style. And that was like a crazy awakening because it was just taken away from my normal day life, into that is it's going to shake your world.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was basically the start of it, so but then once I got to Folsom, that really kind of gave me a little more freedom in that you get to get a job, you get to do other things, stuff like that. So you start to build this program, they call it. So basically living your day-to-day life and not trying to get involved in a bunch of drama, things like that, because it's pretty hectic, like the gang wars, the North, the South, the Southerners, the blacks, whites, it's crazy. And I've seen the biggest dudes in my life in there.
Really?
Yeah. I seen this guy doing a pull-up. He was so big, his bicep was so big, he couldn't even do the pull-up. I'm like, this is crazy. Like, if I have to fight him, this is this
Oh
is
my
gonna be
God.
wild.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, it was intense, man. And
Oh,
just especially coming from like I was also like going through, withdrawals and things
withdrawals.
like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, exactly. So it was a lot to intake, and I think that's why it was so impactful, because going through that, living in those conditions, but it also gave me like a standard to go by, that type of condition, because I know now the human body can take way more than what you think it can take,
Yeah.
So living in those type of conditions and living in that environment, it pushed me to like my extreme limits.
Yeah.
And that's why when I got home, I think it was kind of easy for me. I was like running circles around people. Like when I went back to community college, and it was just like I was just killing it. And I'm like,
Yeah. You
it
had a
was
new
a
definition of struggle.
new definition, new thing to compare to. All this other stuff was like not even a problem. Like day-to-day life, like I was grateful just to go outside. And that
Yep.
that was like crazy to think about. Like most people are not like it's just the gratitude, like grateful just to go outside. That's crazy to think about. you know?
Well, just saying it puts it
Mhm.
into perspective for people to,
Yeah. Hmm.
there's so many different, I don't know, like refrigerator magnet sayings of like,
Yeah.
don't sweat the small stuff. And,
Yeah.
like, don't worry about,
Yeah.
like, this too shall pass, like all these
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
things. But I mean, you're that living example of there are harder things in this world. I've lived it. I've gone
Yeah.
through it. This is not hard.
Yeah, way harder. Yeah, I mean, engineering, it was hard and stuff like that, but compared to that level, it's not hard. You should be happy to do this. You should be grateful that you get the opportunity to do this. That for me, that was a big changing thing because it's like I took stuff for granted. Even when people say like, oh, time is precious, I even took time for granted. Like
Yeah.
people really say that, but their actions speak differently. Because if you really, really understood, people doing hard time, like I would have gave anything to just go outside and, be free at
Yeah.
that point, So that really put in perspective like the importance of time, like when I got out, I just hit the ground running because I was like, oh, I wasted so much time. I got to make up for this. I got to
Well,
do this.
Hey everyone, Brooke here again. Sorry to interrupt the podcast, but I'm coming to Houston and Dallas. So if you are in the Houston or Dallas area and want to learn more about our engineering programs, I'll be at the Discover USC event in Houston on Saturday, September 7th, and in Dallas on Sunday, September 8th. You can register online at viterbi.link/events. That's viterbi.link/events. See you then. And now back to Viterbi Voices.
yeah. So that kind of takes me to my next question, which is you said you started doing college. You
Hmm.
started like taking college courses, and you said
Yep.
you found that focus and that drive of like
Yep.
while you were in prison. But I still have to think there's something else. What made you say that's what I'm going to do? Because I have to say, I have to guess that you're not normal. Like I don't think people go to prison and then find success as a result of going to prison.
Yeah. It's a very small number.
So what happened?
And I thought I think about that a lot, and I've thought about it a lot, previously, like, okay, what was the difference? Because people go in and out of prison all the time, revolving door. People don't really learn their lesson. They go back to drug
Yeah,
addiction.
recidivism.
Yeah, recidivism rates really high, and I'm just like, okay, but there is a couple. I've met people in prison, currently right now Jamal Yarbrough, he's going to USC. I met him in prison. We worked together and I helped him get, to basically USC and, use education as like, a way to change your life. And then there's other people, a buddy of mine, Johnny Smith, he just got accepted to Harvard. We were all in prison together,
Wow.
so it's like you have these stories of people that really change. And I don't know, it's hard to like really say like exactly what it is because, we all come from different walks of life, different parent systems, different communities. There's just something, I guess, internal that sparked in us that made us want to change. It was enough. Like for me, I was like, ever never going back, like that
Yeah.
was like never again. Like that was the worst thing ever. But some people, I don't know, I guess it's not enough for them. It's really hard. But I like to credit my parents, because they never gave up on me. They let me come home after prison, stayed in their home, let me, pursue education. They didn't, after all the stuff I did to them, they're still supporting me, which is amazing.
That's amazing. Now, you spent 3 years in
Mhm.
prison and you get out. How old were you when you get out?
I got out when I was 27.
27.
Mhm.
So at 27 years old, it's let's start over,
Yep. Yep.
basically. And you credit your parents on bringing you back in, which,
Yeah.
credit to them because who knows who else would have stuck with anybody at that point.
Yeah.
And the idea that
After
like,
10 years of just straight hell.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, most parents assume that at 27, someone's taking care of themselves, but to be able
Yeah.
to like, okay, we're going to start you over. That's amazing. And what happens at 27? Do you start attending community college?
Yep, exactly. So basically I was released 3 months later. I was enrolled in community college there in Sacramento. So basically, I knew I wanted to pursue engineering at that point. I started community college January, uh, basically started taking credits, started being involved, everything that I could do. I said yes to everything. I want to be in this class. I want to be in this volunteer. I want to be in Mesa. I want to be, this program. I just was full throttle involved in everything, and
How did
that
everyone take you?
what do you mean?
So you're now this 27-year-old fresh out of prison, jumping into a community college, saying yes to everything. And I know you and this idea of this effusive personality, just even in this story so far, is like it's nothing but smiles and like I'm ready to do stuff. But how did a group of 18, 19-year-olds in community college?
It was a hard, like even for me, it was a hard pill to swallow, because I was out of school for over 10 years at that point.
Yeah, yeah.
I did get my GED at 21, but that was just testing out. But I dropped out of high school. It was really, I started from ground zero. I had to do basic algebra. So it was like at sometimes there was one point where they thought I was the professor. Like that was like a hard pill to swallow. Like,
Yeah.
I'm here, I'm like, dang, okay, I just got to keep going. It doesn't matter. I didn't follow the same route. It's just different lifestyle. It's just, I was
Yeah.
talking to myself in that regard. But it was really, really like after, because I didn't tell anybody initially. Nobody really knew for the
Right.
first 2 years about anything, because I was concerned about how people would
It's got to be
view.
it's got to be a completely mind game in your head about what do I do? Who am I? I've made decisions for myself, but now all of a sudden you're second guessing yourself and how you're going to present.
Yep, exactly. And I felt like I was living like a second life, like a dark secret of like
Yeah.
past, people, what if people find out like I've been to prison? Oh my God. Like it was a little traumatic, and then like it got easier and easier. And then close friends, kind of knew my story. And then really I just used it. I decided to turn it around and use it as something powerful and inspiring, and help others because it was like, doing nothing for me holding it in, So at that point, my friend was a writer for the Sac City College. She wrote about my story, and that was
Really?
like big. Yeah, she wrote about my story in the Sac City paper and basically let it all out, like, former this, that. And because I was at that point, I was really doing well at Sac City. I had straight A's. I was involved. I was vice president of the Honor Society, like just really involved and really like impacting on the campus. So that came out, and it was just more like I was received with open arms, and I was concerned at first, but all the things that I got from people messaging me on, Facebook, Instagram, like, oh, I read your story, this and that, it inspired me. I'm going through the same thing right now, this and that. My brother's doing that, like da da da. So it was like people came out and reached out to me about it, and it was just helping them, give them inspiration that, people do change and you can make a change in your life, even if you're going through all that, so.
That idea of just affirming identity has got to be
Mhm.
one of the best things in your life. It's like being reborn.
Yeah, for sure. Like, this is who I am. You gotta like it or love it.
Well, because ever since I've known you, I've only known you on the other side of that coin,
Hmm.
where like, here's this guy, Breece. He is completely well aware of himself, what he wants to do with full enthusiasm. And what's interesting to me is I was always wondering how you got there.
Hmm.
Like the idea of prison, the idea of getting out of prison, the idea of like re-entering society. I only met you when you've already owned it. Like you've already like you're already winning, right? And I
Yeah.
was kind of curious on like there has to be this other uphill battle. When you had a friend that wrote that article, was that just because she know you and she just said, "Hey, what if I did this?"
Yep. She asked me if she could write about me and this and that. Initially, I was like, oh, I don't know. I'm not. I don't
Because
think
you
we
were
should.
really unsure of it.
Exactly. And I'm like, people, what are people going to think? My bosses, my teachers, they don't even know about it. Nothing. They just
Have
think
you
I'm.
spoken to her at all recently?
Oh yeah, we're still good friends. Yeah, yeah.
Because I got to tell you, that sure seems like the biggest difference maker.
Yeah, it did.
Like,
It was liberating for sure. I'm not hiding this secret anymore.
yeah, that's amazing. That's absolutely amazing.
So,
How did USC come on your radar? Hey everyone, this is Paul. Sorry for the interruption, but I wanted to let you know about a new feature we just unlocked. It's about sending us questions or comments via text. If you go to your podcast player, check the show notes. There's a link there that says send us a question or comment. It may be on our next episode. So go in there, send us a little quick text message. Let us know what your questions are. Let us know what your comments are. We'd love to hear from you. So we can't wait to see it. Now, back to the episode.
basically the aerospace, the geographical location, where it's at, the academics, just everything about USC. I love the campus. So for me, being in aerospace or wanting to be in the space industry, I thought it was a great fit. Mhm.
And you started at USC, what was it, 2019?
Yeah, 2019.
2019. And so at this point, what are you, 29, 30?
Like 31.
31? Okay, so I can't keep track of the math.
Yeah, yeah.
So
31,
then
4 years.
this this is when I meet you, and like I said, to make sure I give credit where credit's due, I feel like you come in and you own every space that you're in the most positive way, and you're a very just like I said, a very effusive guy, very positive guy. You want to be around you, like everyone wants to be around you. But you're now 31 years old. Does it feel like you're starting over again at that point?
It does. Yeah, different campus, different city, different
New
everything.
sets of 18-year-olds.
New sense of 18-year-olds, all of it. Community college was, I would say, a little bit easier because you did have, older people, different
It's
walks
more
of
of a
life,
mixed bag. Yeah.
more mixed bag. When it got to USC, it was completely different.
How
You
did
know,
you overcome that?
the same thing, just swallowing that pill and just keep moving forward. I mean, there's nothing else you could do. Like at that point, for me internally, just like, okay, I knew I was going to face this again. I was 10 years old. I was like 10 years older than the TA. That was hard. I'm like, okay, well, just keep going, man.
That is nuts. That is nuts. What was, I mean, given that your mantra internally or externally at that time was, I've seen worse, I've gotten through worse. This is not hard. What was the hardest thing about being in college?
I mean, the academics to me weren't that hard. It was just pure like dedication and discipline, which I received from prison. Like that was easy to me. Like putting in the work was really easy. I was not afraid to do 16, 17, 18-hour days. That was
Yeah.
nothing to me. And it was just like that part was easier. But again, I think the age difference in that thing, it was a hard pill to swallow. Like people were just wondering like, why are you here at 31? It's just like people start to, I guess, formulate ideas, or it's just my own internal thoughts thinking what people think.
Yeah.
And I just had to struggle with just letting that go. Like it doesn't matter, like you're here, you did a different path, you're
Did you ever
doing.
did you
Yeah.
ever run into anybody that was not as accepting about it?
On a rare occasion, yeah, here and there. I was actually fired from my job as a admissions helper at Sac City College because of my past, because of that. but it was really my fault because I didn't disclose it initially. You know,
Oh, it was like that technicality of you didn't
yeah,
put this on paper.
technicality. I
Got
don't know
it.
if she really wanted to, but she had to let me go, and it was, and it was just I was concerned about, I didn't want to disclose it because I was so new out, and it was just like, dang, what are they going to think about me?
Right.
So and besides that, for the most part, I think people are very receiving of it. They see the story. Maybe it would be different if I was still doing that, but they see the turnaround and they love the inspiration and the change and what I'm doing now, being able to take that adversity and change it into where I'm at. So for the most part, people really, really respect it.
Good. I
Yeah.
mean, I remember, yeah, full disclosure to everybody on the podcast, we hired you, right? So you started working in our office
Hmm.
right away, and it was always interesting to me to see you back there with these other, 18-year-olds like helping with like stuffing a mailing together.
Yeah.
And like I said, you own the room. But I always kind of thought in the back of my head, I'm like, how is, like, for example, Peyton? I think you and Peyton started at the same time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And Peyton is this very innocent 18-year-old coming
Yeah.
out of Central California, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly. And in the back of my mind, I was always like, I wonder what Peyton thinks. Does Peyton
Yeah.
know? How does she go about this?
I'm sure all of them were like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But
I mean, what was your usual go-to, and like when did you drop the knowledge? Was it? I'm sure you didn't like, hey, what's up? My name's Breece, and I used to be in prison and
yeah,
addicted to drugs.
the first thing, like, no, yeah, I just got out.
If you see a guy
No,
come by here named Chewy, just run. Like he's not supposed
right,
to
Big Bubba, don't worry.
be.
No, I guess it depends. I felt, the person, the personality, the relationship we had, because sometimes I would tell people early on, other times I would never tell people.
Mm.
I guess it
Yeah,
just
doesn't
depends
matter.
on.
Yeah, it's not who you are right now.
Yeah, exactly. But it was sometimes a good way to use it, and in other ways, I guess it didn't really matter at that point or the situation I was in. And then I guess just based off the person's personality, the relationship that we had, sometimes, like I said, would disclose it pretty early, like, oh yeah, because maybe they would bring something up that was kind of like, oh, my dad went through this, or I was in
Oh,
jail, this or that, and I was like, oh yeah, and then we would kind of bond over it. So that was kind of, sometimes an early on point. Other points it was just like Peyton. I don't, if she listened to this, I don't think she ever knows.
oh, she ever knew? Oh, wow.
Yeah, now she does.
Hey, there you go. There you go. Well,
Yep,
if she's
yep.
finding out, she's finding out now. It'd be great. But you turned all this around too. I mean, like, not to put to the entire conversation about prison, but you flipped a lot of this into being, a volunteer and teaching
Mhm.
math to the Prison Education Project.
Yep.
You've done a lot of these things about, I think it's called Broken STEM. Is that what you call it?
Yep, yeah, that's a nonprofit. Me and my buddy Jamal that I met in prison, who actually goes to USC right now. He's also getting his degree in engineering. Basically, we started that to kind of give support for people just like us who wanted to change their life and use education, to make a difference in their family and themselves. So really, that was the idea behind the Broken STEM Foundation. It's like Broken STEM, but STEM, science, technology,
It's
engineering,
a
and
great
math.
name.
Yeah, he came up with it. I got to give kudos to him because we had the idea of the logo of like the broken stem of the apple falling into the hand, gravity. So it was like STEM and liberating, for people coming out of prison to really, because like there's so much statistics and, things behind education. It says that people that get a master's degree have like nearly a 0% recidivism rate to ever go back to prison. So if you come out and you get a master's, you most likely will never go back. So it's just good things to like kind of build off of. And that was like the idea behind the broken stem. Even on campus, we did the underground Trojans,
Yeah.
which is another cool, thing based off kind of like the underground scholars in Berkeley. So it's just basically forming incarcerated students, coming to, the university that got in, kind of bonding together, changing their life. So yeah.
That's amazing.
Hmm.
As a student at USC, what are some of your more fond memories of what you did, how you had fun there? What was something that you really remember?
Man, I just love the campus, just going around, had the beauty of it. And just also the LPL. I was also part of the liquid propulsion lab, working on that, getting some experience, with, the lines and the valves and the nozzles and things like that, which I think really prepared me for, going into actual workforce. And just everyone, just the different, I love the campus. I would also go to so many different spots and just hang out and just study. I also lived downtown, so it was super close. So it was just kind of like living in that bubble. I had my scooter. I was on my little electric scooter.
I remember that. I remember when you
Yeah,
got it.
riding
And I think
around.
you hurt yourself on it right away, didn't you?
I broke my ankle playing basketball on,
Oh,
yeah, that wasn't my fondest memory for sure. So I had a knee scooter for a while.
I just remember you coming in with like you had a new scooter, and then all of a sudden there's an injury and you can't walk, or so I can't remember what was going on. I'm like, what is
Yeah,
happening to you?
yeah, I was playing basketball on campus trying to be with the 18-year-olds and dunk. I broke my ankle. It was bad, but I made it.
Okay, lesson learned there, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, and so while you're there, you did some interning, and I think you interned at Millennium Space Systems. Is that correct?
Yep, exactly.
Without intention, I don't even know. This is just a weird coincidence, but our most recent episode was with Shayna Goldberger, who is there at
Oh, really?
Millennium Systems. I don't know if you knew her while she was there, but she actually works there now. She's
That's awesome. Yeah, there's
did you
actually a
ever?
couple people from USC that work there.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that we're kind of overlapping Millennium Space Systems into these two different episodes because she was working there and does all of her work there, and now
Yeah, yeah.
you intern there.
I was working there for the last, 4 months before I graduated. I actually had a job there, offered to me after graduation. It was working on basically small satellites for the Space Force.
Hmm.
But like I said, my true passion was always human space flight. So when I got the, offer from the Johnson Space Center, I decided to make that change.
That's amazing. You got both your bachelor's and your master's at
Yep.
USC. Did that through a progressive degree?
Yeah, progressive degree program in astronautical engineering.
Wow. Okay, cool. And I remember when you graduated because you got both of your degrees on the same day, right?
Yeah,
So you
that
got your
was cool.
bachelor's and your
Walking
master's.
twice.
Both are two
Yeah,
different ceremonies.
yeah. All day event, walking twice in one day. That was super cool.
It's got to be an amazing experience, especially because I met your parents at that time as
Yeah,
well, and your parents could have been more excited for you. And given the story you told about how your parents never gave us support, that's
yeah,
got to be this
yeah.
amazing kind of full circle moment for you.
Oh, definitely. My parents tell me all the time, especially my mom, because she's like the emotional one, she's
Yeah.
always crying. Yeah. She was devastated when I was in prison. I'm her baby boy, so going through something like that. And she's from Mexico City, so she never was actually used to this type of environment with drug addiction, this American kind of influence in drugs and culture. So for her it was like way out of the norm. She didn't even know what like weed looked like. Like that's how
Mm,
like like out of it she was. My dad grew up here in the US, so it was a different story with him. But
right.
yeah,
Huh. So you went straight from USC straight to NASA.
yep. Hmm.
Okay. And so you've been there a few years now. What has been the biggest challenge of, first of all, this is now a third or fourth, I can't keep track, new beginning for you,
Yeah.
right? This idea of like, I'm starting a new life now. And not only did you start a new life because you're as a professional person, you're no longer in school. There's always transition of someone like being employed full time. You moved to a new state. We talked about the weather being something
Yeah.
entirely different for you. But how has that transition been for you? Is it still the same thing? Like I've been through worse, this is fine, or have there been
Yeah.
new difficulties you haven't been used to?
Kind of, I've been carrying that same mindset forever. Like it doesn't matter where I go, it's not worse than prison. You know. So that was kind of like I said before, kind of like a coming back point, using that as like a reference. After that, it's like I'm willing to go anywhere. Like go to space. I want to be an astronaut. Take me to the moon.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So really like coming here, I just had the same focus and same mindset and same drive, going from Sac City College to USC to here in Houston, Johnson Space Center, and now even starting my coffee company, so it's just been like that same mindset, same goal, same discipline, same keep going, because I always like I listen to a lot of motivational speakers, especially when I got out. And I just loved like the saying, average skill, phenomenal will, because I had average skill when I got out. I hadn't been in school for years and years, but I had phenomenal will. For me, that was like the biggest thing. Like, I'm going to show up if I have to, like, even my, co-students, like they would study for like a few hours, get it. I would have to study triple that, triple the time just to get the same grades as them.
Yeah.
But that, if that's what it was, and I made sure I had the discipline and, made it to go like it was nonstop.
You mentioned, and I'm glad you brought it up because I was going to ask you about it next. You also started this coffee company.
Yeah.
Space Fox Coffee. You
Yep.
sent me a bag, by the way, delicious.
Nice.
It
Nice.
is amazing. Love
Heck
it.
yeah.
Both my wife and I
Awesome.
absolutely love it. It's fantastic. We're gonna order some more, so I
Heck
appreciate
yeah.
that.
Let's go.
Where did this come from? This seems out of left
This
field.
this this
And
goes all the way back to prison.
really, tell me.
Yeah, so basically I started drinking coffee in prison and it was kind of like an escape, kind of like a sense of normalcy, even though the coffee was terrible, but
Not good coffee in Folsom Prison.
and the way you warmed it up was terrible. It was terrible, but
Did you leave that in the Yelp review for Folsom Prison?
yeah, coffee terrible. Do not go to Folsom Prison.
Do not recommend.
Exactly, 0 stars. But really, that was kind of like the starting point because I was like I drank coffee here and there, but I really started drinking coffee in prison, and that was kind of like I guess my obsessive personality. I turned my addiction and things like that to be
It's a replacement drug,
a
caffeine.
replacement, caffeine and success and future and discipline. I just kind of became obsessed with all those things. So really, I started using coffee, and then when I got out at Sacramento City College, I drank coffee there. At USC, drank coffee there. Now at the Johnson Space Center, I have coffee. So it was always part of my journey, like a source of fuel. Once I had the coffee, it was psychological. Like, let's do it. Let's get at it. And
Yeah.
now it's like Space Fox Coffee. Space Fox is my nickname. So it's really just like an example of the journey. That's kind of the idea behind Space Fox Coffee is like we want to fuel your journey, because I had my journey with coffee, so we want to be there to support your journey as well.
How do you get into the coffee business?
Well, I was an avid drinker for years and years, but now the whole other side about roasting and logistics and packaging,
Yeah. Yeah.
that it took us 2 years just to launch.
Who's us?
Well, me and my dad, he's been helping me a lot.
Oh, great.
Yeah, yeah. So he retired. I moved him out here. We Airbnb their house in Sacramento, so they're getting help with
Oh,
income.
the fam's out in Houston now.
Yep, yep. Yeah, I moved him out here last year because I have this house. I'm like, it's just me by myself. I'm like, I need some help.
Yeah.
It was cool to have them come here. They're retired. They're floating around. Right now they're in Florida, with my sister. So they're jumping around, but he's been really helping me. He did all the renovations to the garage. My dad is like a master construction worker. Basically, he saved me so much money and so much help with the garage because now it's not even a garage anymore. It's just a roasting. We roast, package, distribute.
You're roasting it there in your garage.
In my garage, yeah.
So you get the beans, you source them from somewhere.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I'm assuming there's some sort of, because all the varietals, or if that's the right word, on your site, there's too many options. By the way, that's my first critique. I didn't know which one to order. I was like, I don't know. That sounds amazing. They all sound great. You have these great space related names for each of them. I think I got the Interstellar blend, if that's correct.
Yep, Interstellar, yeah.
Interstellar.
It's all space related,
which is I'm down for. And then I love that you have these different caffeinated levels, right? You have two, like what are they? What's the difference?
The MaxQ, so basically
MaxQ, which is the maximum stress of a rocket, right?
Exactly. So they call MaxQ on a rocket launch. So that's the max aerodynamic pressure on the vehicle. So that was just fittingly, the high caffeinated blend. So basically, we just add some Robusta because typically what you see is Arabica beans. So like 90% of the companies out there use Arabica, which is the normal bean. But Robusta has double the caffeine in it, but it doesn't taste as good as Arabica. So you put only a little bit in there, to increase the caffeine level by it while still keeping the good taste.
That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, but you're buying beans and then you're roasting them in your garage.
Yep.
I'm assuming you had to buy a bunch of equipment to do that.
Yeah, yeah. So we completely renovated everything. We did the floor, we got the roasting machine. So there's basically two types of roasters. You have your normal drum roaster. So that's the big machines you see. And then what we have is a fluid bed air roaster. So it's an all electric. It's like the air fryer of the bean of the coffee industry.
Wow.
Yeah. So basically we're using the fluid bed air roaster, which the roasting machines cost a lot, man.
I bet.
I invested a lot into that, and now we have the bag sealer, the beans. We import the beans, the bags. The bags took a lot, the labels, everything. So basically, roasting, packaging, distributing, all from there, and basically helping with we built the website on Shopify just to have that e-commerce interface.
And the website is to help everybody buy your coffee. Well, let's
Space
promote it.
Fox, yeah, spacefoxcoffee.com.
Spacefoxcoffee.com. And you said it's your nickname, and I didn't know this. I learned this after I started going through your website and after ordering it and seeing the packaging, which by the way
Yeah,
is beautiful, and all the stuff you did is great. Where does Space Fox as a name come from?
it actually came from community college. That's what my buddies were calling me. Well, originally, they were calling me Silver Space Fox because I love the aerospace industry so much, but I had a lot of gray hair too from all the stress in prison, I guess.
So this is originally the Silver Space Fox.
Yeah, Silver Space Fox. So I'm like, let's just stay with Space Fox. So I kind of altered it a little bit, but yeah, they would call me that.
That is awesome. I
Yeah.
was in my head making up all these stories about where Space Fox came from. I'm like, I don't know where this came from. The Space
Yeah.
Fox himself.
It's basically, yeah, community college, because I always talked about my grandfather being in the aerospace industry and Apollo, space this. I was just obsessed with space.
I love it. I
Mhm.
absolutely love it. And so, I'm assuming business is okay on this, or we're still in initial moments of like,
Yeah, I mean, we launched 3, 4 weeks ago, it's been
well, that's still, wow, that's, I didn't know it was that quick. Okay.
yeah, we worked on it for the last 2 years. So basically renovating everything, getting all the food manufacturer's license, state inspector, all of it, preparing to have an official everything legit, and now it took almost 2 years, and we finally launched 3.5 weeks ago. So it's been crazy ever since. I just been going like I do with everything, just obsessed.
That's okay, man. I love it. And what's your goal? I mean, not necessarily like maybe both. What's a long-term goal? And like what's like the 6 months from now? What do you hope to be doing? Are you trying to get into like local cafes or stuff like that? Or are you just trying to do direct to
I'm,
consumer?
I'm open to everything. Right now, the initial thought was direct to consumer. People buy online, it's for home use. But over the last 2 weeks, I've probably hit up around 40 to 50 businesses in the area, trying to, because the idea behind Spacebox Coffee Company is to, inspire, because we do inspirational stuff here every day, with the Artemis program, the journey that I went through. We want to inspire others, motivate. And I want to be the space industry's coffee. That to me is a huge kind of
Yeah.
thing. Supply SpaceX and Blue Origin, like Space Fox, SpaceX, that would be the cool long-term goal. Like Elon, let's let's hook up, man.
I got it. The official coffee of NASA sounds pretty cool to me, right?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So just being involved like in the space industry, Space Fox, and then inspire others, because there's two tails. It's hard to like really encompass everything, because it's Space Fox, so it's like space branded, space everything. But I also want to have the inspirational in the adversity. So it's like, how do I encompass all of that? So I'm trying to play both sides of the card. The journey that I went through and where I'm at now with the space industry. Like you said, these two avenues coming together, like prison and NASA, is like, I don't know if that's ever been really done.
No,
Not
no.
that I know of.
That's amazing. Well,
Yeah,
offline, let me know if you ever need any help, because I think it's a really cool thing and I'd love to help you out as best I can. That's some
definitely,
cool
definitely.
stuff.
I appreciate you giving me the time here on the platform too. And we've been talking about this, sharing the story and the journey for a while now.
It's a great story. I mean, it's amazing. And that's kind of where my next questions go. And don't take this as a criticism. It's not a criticism. But you've gotten so used to saying, whatever I have now, it's better than what I've been.
Hmm.
When do you stop settling for that? Where do you go after the next level of happiness or fulfillment?
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious. Like, what do you want? What's gonna make you super happy? I don't know if you've ever been asked this before, but I think you've gotten this routine of 30 something years.
Yeah. That's a great question. And even going back to like, thinking about the past and that stuff, there's got to be a point where, you got to just move on from all that. I've thought about
And
this a
again, don't
lot.
take it negative. I feel like I'm asking such a negative question, but it's
No,
it's
no,
much more.
not at all. It's good to think about, because in all reality, it's like, okay, you went through that. That was a part of your life, but now you're a new person. You got to build off where you're at now. And that was like a kind of a big question of like, okay, it's hard though, because really like going through something like that, I don't want to equate it to somebody going to war, because that's a whole different story, whole different level. That's their choice. I respect the
But
hell
it's
out.
still inside you the same way, though.
It's instilled inside you the same way. It's like I'm coming back from being a veteran of this traumatic experience,
Yes.
so it's very hard to like kind of let that go. Me and my buddies that were in prison together still talk about it to this day, still talk about the people in there, still talk about our routine in there. it's just a traumatic thing, you know?
And then you have the trauma bonding over it, right? Like
Yep, we
that's the only
bond
people
over
that truly identify or that truly understand you are the ones that identify with the same situation.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure you gravitate towards them.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. But then, like my sister, she brought up a similar question, like, "Oh, you gotta like let that go. When are you gonna like let that
Well,
go?" And I'm like, she's right in a sense. It's like, okay, that was what, like close to 10 years ago. It's just kind of like, where do I go from now? What are my goals? My future. I can't base everything off of that. But it took me to where I'm at now, and I'm super grateful for it.
yeah,
And like it's crazy to think about. It was like over 10 years ago or about 10 years ago that this happened, but it still has the effect on me to this
right.
day.
Well, and it's all positive.
Yeah.
The fact being that, but there still is trauma inside of you that won't go away, and it's important to recognize that. I guess what I was really asking is, I don't want to say you got to let this go, and I want to make sure I'm clear about that. But what I do want to ask is, it seems to be highly motivating for your functionality of productivity.
Yep.
Right? I'm a
Mhm.
hard worker. It makes me a harder worker. I accomplish more things. I work 3 times harder than anyone else. I'm working this amazing stuff at NASA. I'm going to start a side business where I'm going to work 10 times harder than anyone else. I'm going to build
Yeah.
it from scratch.
Yeah.
I guess my point is, where's the other part of life?
Yeah. Yeah. Where's my wife and kids, right?
Not that. It doesn't have to be that. Honestly,
No,
and
no, I'm just messing around.
no, I mean, maybe it is if that's what you want, but I'm saying like, where's the fun? Where's the fun part for Reese? What do you do for fun now? What do you want to do for fun? Where do you allow yourself to have fun? Because I kind of think you don't.
That's the thing. I don't really allow myself to have.
That's what I'm getting from you is that you're not, and that's
No, I
bumming me out.
don't. Yeah. Yes, me too. No, I think it just stems from that kind of deep trauma where it's like you don't have no time to waste, and that I keep having that like in my head play, kind
But
of
you
thing
do
where
now.
I do,
You have it
and
now. I
I,
guess that's my point, man. Like you're such an inspirational guy. You are never not smiling. But gosh, I want you to find joy.
yeah, and I do find joy in like the stuff that I'm doing, here at
And maybe
work.
that's it.
Mhm. And even with the coffee business, this is my vision, taking this idea and bringing it to life, and being able to like the vision with that too is like, impacting my family and my community. Cause like with Spacebox Coffee, we're actually
That's
giving
great.
scholarships to, Sac City. We've already given out 2 scholarships for people,
Amazing.
yeah, coming out of prison pursuing STEM. So to me,
Amazing.
it's like a huge thing to like, and I want to do more once I start growing, but really just impacting others, taking care of my parents. I want them to have a great life this last, whatever years they have on this earth. For me, that's super motivating. Like I want to be able to, if you want to go here, do this, do that, whatever on me, like that's really like my
That's
drive too
great.
as well. Because like I said, my parents were there, through the whole thing, devastation, addiction, everything, all the hell I put them through,
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's important to me. But like you said, like I think I want to get to a point where it's like, I guess some financial freedom, and I do have a good job and pay and stuff like that, but just take it to the next level. And, it's hard because, I'm getting older. I'm 36, so it's like,
Yeah.
when do I find time for, others, or if I do want to have kids and stuff like that, it's a hard thing to juggle.
Do you? Is that what you said? You do want to have kids?
I do.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I take it back. It was a rude comment of mine. I don't mean to be rude. You are getting great joy out of what you're doing.
No, I
And
don't take it at all like that.
well, no, I'm listening to myself and I'm like, oh God, that's not the right thing. And I'm stumbling over how I want to chat with you about it. But I think what's really cool is that you just do so many great things. You will always continue to do great things. God, I just want you to be happy for the sake of yourself, not for the sake of someone else. For it's
Yeah.
just for a half day,
Yeah.
like
It's like 20 minutes, right?
I want you to go just on this amazing vacation where you're not giving back to someone else. And I know that you feel like you owe a lot back. And I guess my point is, I think you've paid it back in dividends. I think you've done some amazing things. And I'm not saying you're going to stop. I'm just saying like I don't think you're in anyone's debt anymore.
Yeah, no, that's good to like hear out loud, again, because I'm so hard on myself, to be honest. And
Yeah,
I think that's where you were getting at,
that's what I'm getting at.
because I'm extremely hard on myself. Everything I went through, where I'm at, where I got to go, and what I got to do. I'm like, no time off. You like, go, go, go. It's like
That's the
nonstop. And it's it's been like this for 10 years.
That's the thread, man. That's the thread that I've been hearing, and it's super inspiring to hear about. And I'm like, cool, stop beating yourself up. You
Yeah.
did it. And oh my
Yeah.
God, you did it. And oh my God, you did it again. And wow, it's like, God, I love it. And I love what I love is that you've put so much of this, we're minimizing it by just calling it trauma, but you put so much of this experience into so much good. And I know that you continue well, whether that's the volunteering or the outreach or the engagement and the community you're building with formerly incarcerated students
Yeah.
that are out there and the scholarships you give, and even the work you're going to be doing with Space Fox and how it gives back. Like,
Yeah.
there's some cool stuff there, man. And it's just, you're such a great person.
Really appreciate that.
I really want you to have a lot of fun. I really want you to just enjoy it because you know what? Everyone else is having fun.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I definitely want to have fun for sure.
I know you're having fun doing what you're doing. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, we totally get like on a different level, like letting it go at some point, where it's like you just let it go, like really like being happy of where you got and where you're going, be grateful. And I do try to count my wins,
Yeah.
'cause I did a
You got
lot
a
of
lot.
at community college at
You
USC.
have more wins now than you ever had any losses.
Oh, definitely now, it was a huge loss, but now it's like surpassed that.
Yeah. It's
So,
super, super cool. So, think you're going to be at NASA for quite some time?
yeah, I just did my astronaut application like 6 months ago. So
Did you really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah, so let's see what they call me back.
Oh my God, the Space Fox, the Silver
Yeah.
Space Fox is going up.
Yeah, that would be crazy to like have somebody from, because I don't think it's ever been done, someone from prison actually become an astronaut, so that's super inspiring for me, like internally, like, oh, that would be crazy.
That would be amazing. That
Yeah.
would be super, super cool. If that ever happens, then we're going to have you back on.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'll have to come back on campus.
Exactly. Exactly. That is super, super cool. Do you ever find yourself out in LA at all anymore?
I haven't been there in a couple of years, but I want to go back to California just to see, old friends, students I went to school with, just buddies in SoCal and NorCal, everywhere. I plan on taking like a couple weeks off just to kind of just go around and see everybody because it's been a couple of years since I've been back.
Yeah. Well, hey, we miss you, and again, super proud of you and all that you've accomplished. And I can't say it enough that it is probably the most inspiring story I've ever heard. I mean,
Thank you, Paul.
you've always been an incredible inspiration, just as I've seen you go through this process, seeing your different accomplishments. Hearing about it much more in detail today makes it far more inspiring. And then hearing about what you continue to do it's this constant, unending sense of accomplishment. And it's really impressive for anyone, let alone the hole you dug yourself out of, for lack of a better term. It's just quite amazing. I'm stuttering because I don't know how to talk about it any
No,
better.
I appreciate it. It's crazy to think about, even me, like to this point, because I didn't really think about it, the impact or what I was doing. I just kept going, after prison and what I wanted to do and my family and all that. So it was like now that I sit here, years later, even on this podcast and think about it, it's like kind of surreal.
Awesome. Is there anything else you wanted to chat about that we didn't chat about? If not, or whenever we've covered all the topics you want to, I have one final thing that's a fun little ending to the whole conversation.
No, I think that covered my whole life from birth to
So far, up to this point,
where I'm at right now.
just the first few chapters, not
Yeah.
everything.
And then maybe I'll come out with a book. My buddy that I went to prison with, he was telling me to write a book, right? And he called it From Prison Bars to Mars.
Oh my, that's it.
That's a good one.
That's it. That's it.
I'm
I like
maybe
it.
if I become an astronaut.
Write it. I think you should write it. I mean, I'm telling you right now, I think you should write it. That's an amazing book. Well,
Okay, let's do it.
I mean, who knows though? Here's the question. That book comes out, confident it's a bestseller. I'm confident people are going to make a movie about it. Who plays you in the movie?
Dang, okay. I don't know. I guess you could either do like a Brad Pitt or George Clooney if you
There you
want.
go. I'm down for both. I'm down for both. I like it. I like it.
That's funny. Maybe I could. I guess if you want to take the gray, maybe some Ryan Reynolds. I don't know.
I'm in. That is awesome. All right. We usually do these little fun lightning round questions to wrap up the conversation. So I'm going to lightning round. First thing that comes to mind when I ask you the question. Are you ready for it?
Yep.
Okay. We've got 10 questions. Ready? Number one. Favorite ice cream flavor?
Vanilla. I'm basic.
Say a word in Spanish.
Hola.
There it is. Do you believe in fate?
Yes.
Favorite number?
9.
Who has it easier, men or women?
Oh man.
Yeah. Have you ever worn socks with sandals?
Yes. Say that.
Name a primate besides monkeys and apes.
A primate? Oh, dang, that's a hard one. See, I'm in the STEM. Paul.
Yeah, a human. That's
Yeah.
us. Yeah. Why can't we tickle ourselves?
Because we know it's coming, I guess.
Yeah, we know it's coming. What does a person need to be happy?
I mean, happiness can be found in anything. So food, job, life, anything.
Okay. Is there such thing as objective beauty?
Yes.
What's the best age?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I guess right now, whatever age for
Whatever
me,
you are.
26.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of experience, but a lot to go. So
All right. This one's a Harry Potter specific one. So if you don't know, I'm fine with it. If Voldemort offered you a hug, would you accept it?
I know he's a bad guy, right?
Yeah, I'm not a Harry Potter guy either. I guess supposedly this is a really tough question for if you've read Harry Potter books. So
Yeah, I'm gonna say yeah. I
I'm
mean,
gonna say whatever. It's
peace.
cool. Finally, is double dipping at a party ever acceptable?
Yeah, because I do it all the time.
We found your flaw. We found your flaw.
I'm not perfect.
All right, man. Hey, it was so good to connect with you. You've been very generous with your time, and I wanted to make sure I give you part of your Friday afternoon off. You go relax and have a good weekend. Any big plans? Any big plans for Labor Day?
I'm not going to relax though.
That's what I'm asking. Can you relax? What are you going to do for Labor Day?
I'm going to try, definitely, take some time. But if orders are coming in with this coffee business, I got to be on it. But no,
Okay.
I'm going to try to relax just for you, Paul. Okay.
Okay. Okay. All right. Good, man.
Yeah. Thank you for this time too, man. I really appreciate you, giving me this platform and sharing my story.
Oh, absolutely. It's going to go up this weekend. So I'll
Nice.
post it up and I'll tag you up in LinkedIn for it.
Nice. I'll tell my mom.
All right.
All right. Have a good one.
It's good to see you, Breece. Bye-bye.
Take care.
And we're back. Thank you again, Paul, for that lovely episode. He had a crazy story. You weren't lying in that intro.
No, told you. It's one of the coolest stories ever, and I think really, really interesting to show that, especially when let's take it away from him particularly, because I think, he tells his own story, but oftentimes transfer students are coming to us and believe that whatever their situation is, they are the only one. I can't tell you how many times we get an email that says, I have a question for you because I have a rather unique situation. And it's not. One thing that everybody should understand is that no two transfer students are alike, but every transfer student or prospective transfer student is going through a similar set of quote unquote non-regular circumstances.
Mhm.
And that's okay. That's totally fine. And as long as students are doing what we're asking them to do, then they can be prepared and be a competitive applicant. And there's a way to go through this. So I don't think any transfer student should feel alone. We have a number of veterans that are transfer students that have taken a time either in college, taking time away from college, or never went to college.
Mhm.
We have students that have gone to work. We have single parents that have come back. There's so many different ways to think about how a transfer student has entered into this environment. That's why I like telling Breece's story, because it really kind of gets to the heart of no matter what's going on, there are ways to make this work.
Mhm.
And we want to hear about them, and we want to make sure that they're encouraged to go down the path if that's something they want to do. So it's a really cool experience.
Yeah, it was really inspiring to see. Before the episode, I was just brushing up on some details about him so that when I was going through the editing, I didn't go in blind
Yeah.
because I just want to get a scope of what was going on. And reading his story, I was so impressed. I feel like this sounds bad, but like people always want to say like, oh, but my situation, like it's just not going to be possible. But he really overcame every sense of adversity. And it's really cool to see that someone can be like an inspiration for others as well, because he said that he was also like the foundation STEM program to help other kids that are in similar situations as him. And I love that he's like giving back to his community.
Yeah, it's great. It's really, really cool. It's fun. So I'm glad you got that.
Mhm.
All right. So you are wrapping up your first week of classes. You've had group meetings. I know you went on, last time we talked to you, you were going on retreats. Retreats are kind of
I'm
more retreats
not a retreat. I'm going to be a camp counselor this weekend, funny enough.
this weekend.
Yes, I'm leaving today, Friday, and then I get back Monday, Labor Day, like in the late afternoon, evening time.
Okay. All right. Cool. And I'm assuming this went up on Sunday no matter what.
Yes, it will be up Sunday, hopefully bright and early. I hope everyone's having a great, lovely morning listening to the Viterbi Voices podcast with their Space Fox coffee in hand.
Sponsored by Space Fox Coffee.
Yep, Breeze, if you want to sponsor an episode, please reach out.
Cool. So where's camp?
That's a great question. I actually don't know because we're going on a bus. We're just meeting up at a location in Irvine, and then we're all
What was the name of the
taking.
camp? Did I miss that? Sorry.
No, I don't even remember the name of the camp because they sent in a really long email, and I didn't read the full email.
Not the
But
camp location. Like, what's the name of your camp? Like, what are you doing?
oh, it's called Youth Servant Summit. So it's some youth in like Irvine community,
Got it.
and it's a bunch of high schoolers. So each of us have a different like age group. So I'm in charge of like some of the sophomore kids with my co-counselor, and it's just like a 4-day camp. We're all gonna be in the mountains together. It's gonna be a fun time.
Very cool. Very cool. And do you know you're a camp counselor for that age group, but are you leading activities or will there be certain things that you'll be doing?
We have a packed schedule. We have like almost every minute of our day already planned out for us because there's so many different activities at the campsite and there's a lot of different groups. I think there's about 16 groups and we're all doing different activities at different times. So it's just like constantly rotating. So you have to stay on schedule. So it's gonna be interesting trying to keep all these 10th graders on track.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And they're all from the Irvine area?
Generally, just like general OC area. Some of them are even from LA, but all of them are like kind of in that community or their parents are at least in it and like want to send them to this camp.
How many high school students are you in charge of?
I'm only doing 11. Like me and my counselor.
Okay.
Every group is about 10 to 11 kids. And there's, I want to say at least 10 groups, but I feel like there's more.
Have you done this before?
No, but my sister has, and a lot of my USC friends have last year. And a lot of them are coming this year as well.
Interesting.
Yeah. Every time, because my sister's been doing it for the past 3 or 4 years, and every year there's more USC kids that join in on it.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Are you ready to deal with 15-year-olds?
I honestly don't know. This week alone, because, okay. So my schedule this year is kind of interesting because I pushed off a lot of my. So if you're a computer science major, you have to take an electrical engineering class, but only one. So you can take it any time in your course plan.
Yeah.
And I pushed it off till my senior year.
Uh-oh.
So now I'm in a class with a bunch of freshmen and sophomores.
Mm-hmm.
And that alone is already too much for me to deal with. And they're like 18, 19. So I can't imagine what I'm going to be doing around a bunch of 15-year-olds.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Godspeed. It's a rough group. Just be ready to hold down. Be strong. Be strong. Don't let them don't let them have an inch.
I'll report back next week of how terribly it went.
I'm sure it'll be great. Speaking of next week, I am more than likely not going to be here next week. So just as a heads up, on Monday, I'm boarding a plane to China and I will be in Beijing and Shanghai for almost all of next week. So you're going to probably have to do the episode without me next week. And I wish you the best of luck.
We're going to have a lot of fun next week, guys.
Oh, no. I'll listen to it and see what happens. I'll listen to it on the flight home, unless we can work out a time. If I can record while I'm there, I would love to. Let's see how the timing works out and what your schedule looks like. I haven't even figured out how far ahead I'm going to be, but I think it's like a full day and a half, something like that.
Oh, wow.
Actually, let's figure that out. This will be fun to do on live TV or live recording, a live recording.
Oh, we were just discussing this, the difference between filming and recording.
Oh, you keep saying filming versus recording. I'm like, we're not filming anything.
But I'm looking at you, Paul. In my head, I'm filming.
It's true. But we don't use this. Okay. All right. I will be 15 hours ahead.
Okay. When is a good time then?
If you were to record in, let's say, I don't know, the afternoon? That would be my next morning. Is that correct? Am I wrong on that?
If I do around like 5 p.m., I think that's 8 a.m. your time. Am I doing my math right?
That's a great question. Let's figure this out. This is riveting podcast material.
Everyone's planning the next podcast with us.
Right. We're figuring out when we're actually going to be recording this.
I think 5 p.m. my time is 8 a.m. your time.
You're absolutely right. 5 p.m. your time is 8 a.m. my time.
Beautiful.
So
that sounds pretty good.
That sounds pretty doable. We can also do 6 p.m. and 9 a.m. That's even better. But, my clock will be so way off. I mean, there's probably going to be moments where I'm up at weird hours and asleep
Yeah,
at
you'll
weird
probably want to
hours.
film at like 4 a.m. and I'm gonna be Paul.
Record. I want to record, not film.
Yep.
You didn't even hear
I said
you
the
say
right
it.
one.
You said film.
I said record.
You said film.
Oh no. Guys, I'm just gonna go back and they're not even gonna know I said film because I'm just gonna edit my voice over each part.
You're gonna be like, now we're going to record. Just add it back
They'll
in.
never know the difference.
Oh, never, not at all, not at all. Which is, this is all relevant to you as a listener because we have events going on around the world starting this week. Mumbai and New Delhi, Beijing, Shanghai next week, Houston, Dallas, Washington, D.C., New York, Boston, South Florida, Atlanta, Chicago, Seattle, San Francisco area, Honolulu. London is coming up in 2 weeks. So there's so many different events that are out there. Go to viterbi.link/events. Viterbi.link/events to register for one of our off-campus events. If you're in one of those areas and would like to visit with us, if you cannot do that, we're always still holding events on campus. Also at that same website, you can come visit and register. Or if you can't visit campus and we're not near you, we have virtual options available to you as well. Virtual info sessions that mostly run on Saturdays, and hopefully that works for your schedule. It's all there at that same link, viterbi.link/events, to learn more about our programs. So you can learn more before you apply. If you have more questions and would like to chat with us, we put on as many as possible for you to get to know that. In addition to that, there are also student live chats that are going on. One of them is coming up this week, related to getting to know students from different majors in the Viterbi school. And then we have different kind of affinity-based groups that will happen in the weeks to come. So Black and African American students in engineering, women in engineering, Latinx students, Hispanic and Latinx students in engineering coming up. All these different ones are all out there on our website. Sign up for as many of these events as you like. If you'd like to learn more, we put them on so that you can get your questions answered and understand whether this would be a good place for you. And of course, if you know the difference between, what time it is in LA versus what time it is in Shanghai, let us know. We're always trying to figure these things out. Anyway, anything else you want to talk about, Savia?
I wanted to bring up a new artist for the week that wasn't Taylor Swift.
Oh, yeah. What is it? What do you like? This is your artist of someone you like?
I was trying to scour the internet to see who could be like as controversial or as like fan base oriented as Taylor Swift, but I honestly couldn't find anyone that I was interested enough in.
Nothing tops Taylor Swift, I think, is what we're learning.
Oh, that's a hot take. I think everyone's been listening to Chapel Roan lately. Have you heard of her?
No.
She blew up out of nowhere. Actually, maybe not out of nowhere, but she blew up really quickly. She opened for Olivia Rodrigo, and then all of a sudden she was like all over. And she's opened for not open, but she's been at some festivals already. She just like blew up overnight in my eyes, and now everyone I know listens to her.
Chapel Roan. Interesting. Okay. So I'm gonna need to figure out who this is.
That's your homework. While you're on the plane to Shanghai, just listen to the album.
Just listen. Is it just one album?
I think she only has one. Ooh, maybe I'm not a big enough fan.
I got it going here.
The Rise and Fall of a Midwest Princess. Beautiful name.
I got Good Luck Babe playing right now.
What are our thoughts?
I'm a fan. It's not. Oh, is this what Pink Pony Club is? Like I've seen Pink Pony Club come up a lot, like and just memes. And I'm like, I'm at a point where I'm like, I'm not going to understand memes, and I just kind of accept it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's for me, but I dig it. It's not bad. It's not bad.
How does she compare to Taylor Swift?
Oh, miles apart. Okay. I mean, Taylor Swift is an institution.
Wow. Maya really indoctrinated you.
Well, you have to accept that she's an institution, whether you like her or dislike her. You have to accept that she is an icon. Right.
Okay.
And it's not necessarily all for me, but the more you listen to it, you're like, yeah, it's killing it. I mean, it's bigger than anything else. Like when I was a kid growing up, that was Michael Jackson.
Wow. Michael Jackson, Taylor Swift are in the same level?
Oh, they totally are. You don't think so?
I don't know. Michael Jackson has like a more, I don't know what the word is. Like he just has a more everlasting presence in my eyes.
Well, he has 40 years.
Okay, yes, that as well. But I feel like he's like untouchable. Like I feel like Taylor Swift is she still has those haters that like are gonna knock her down a couple pedestals.
That's just current.
Okay, that's true, maybe.
I mean, yeah, that's just kind of a current social media landscape thing, but like I don't have any of these numbers. I'm not an expert on this, but I'm fairly certain that if you were to compare album sales and charts, I'm fairly certain that Taylor Swift is either on top of or tied with Michael Jackson on any one of those.
That's valid. Yeah.
That's my point of like he's up there. Because like there was like, 60s late 60s, you had the Beatles.
Mm.
And then Michael Jackson comes in and kind of unthrones them. And then a few others kind of came in and came close to Michael Jackson, but now Taylor Swift has like dethroned all of them as far as like records and chart toppers and God knows what else is out there. And she's still got so much longer to go. Michael Jackson, I should have said 40 years. He's got more like 50 or 60 years if you combine the Jackson 5
Okay.
in with it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is the in-depth conversation people come here for is pop music analysis.
You should just start a new podcast.
And I'm not arguing one has to win. I'm just saying, like, I think these are just facts.
But I love how I said, "Oh, it probably won't be a frequent topic for me," and it's come up.
You
almost
brought it
every
up.
episode.
You brought it up. You came. I was signing off. I was like, thanks everybody. Have a good one. And then you're like, wait a minute. Let's talk about Taylor Swift one more time.
I needed to throw it in. I need to keep them guessing. But that can be our wrap off. We'll let everyone ponder with that, and then next
let the
week
debate go. You can let us know what you think. You can text us inside the show notes. There's a link that says text us a comment or a question. Let us know. What do you think? Taylor Swift, Michael Jackson, Chappell Roan. I don't think Chappell Roan belongs in that conversation, to be quite honest with you.
Definitely doesn't. But I'm all about the up and coming artist. She could be the next Taylor Swift.
Sure.
You never know.
Sure. I'm down for that. I'm down for that. I mean, Madonna has to get thrown in that pantheon.
Okay, I agree with that. I can support you on that.
Madonna has to be. We've been listening to a lot of Madonna lately.
Which songs?
Well, because Like a Prayer was on the Deadpool soundtrack, on the Deadpool movie. Did you see Deadpool?
I did not. I'm really behind on movies. I still need to see Twisters.
You don't need to see Twisters. Who says you need to see Twisters?
Everyone. My friends have watched it twice in 40X.
40X, is that the thing where the screen wraps around?
It's the one where your like chair moves and sometimes water gets splashed on you.
Oh, I want nothing to do with that. No, why would you do that?
It's immersive.
Wait, so this could be an age thing. And I'm happy to say that. I'm happy to accept that it is. You all go to those things a lot?
I
thought that was just like a scam.
I personally don't. But 40X in specific, I haven't heard about 40X movies.
It sounds like Twisters would be perfect for that.
Yeah, because there's so much going on in that movie. And then there's like the Twisters. So it makes you really feel like you're a part of the movie.
Was the original Twister a big movie for you? Did you know there was an original Twister?
I did, but I only know because someone brought it up. Someone was like, oh yeah, I don't know what the context was. They just mentioned something about the original and I was like, original? What are they talking about?
But you were jazzed for this one regardless of an original.
I wasn't the biggest fan. Everyone's just saying like, oh, Glenn Powell's in it and 40X. And I was like, yeah, for sure.
It's the star power of Glenn Powell.
Exactly.
That you wanted to see Glenn Powell. Okay. I get it. I'm just trying to tap into
the youth.
What the kids were saying these days. What's a movie that you're excited about coming out? Do you think of these things?
Honestly, I'm not a big movie goer. I'm more of into TV shows just because I feel like they're a lot more accessible in between my classes.
Yeah.
Everyone was talking about It Ends With Us, but that also had a lot of controversy around it.
That's why everyone was talking about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Because the book got really popular about a year or two ago. And then I read it at that time, but I haven't watched it yet either. But I want to see it just to be a part of the debate, the conversation.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that debate has to do with, there's so many layers to that debate.
Yeah.
I don't even understand all of it, but I get the concern and where it's coming from. But when you guys, so you and your friends, going to the movies is not like a big thing.
Not really. I feel like movie tickets are so expensive nowadays.
They are.
Some of my friends do
Especially when you're doing 40X.
Yeah, I can't imagine. But some of them have the A-list pass where you get free movies. You just pay like a one-time amount.
Yeah, the AMC thing. Yeah.
But they're like film kids. Like they live for this kind of stuff.
Okay.
So they go often. I'll join them like maybe bi-monthly, pop in. But I haven't seen a movie all summer. And I feel like there was a lot this summer.
There were a good amount.
Yeah. I didn't see a single one. I need to catch up on them. But in my head, I'm like, oh, I can just watch them all when they come out on a streaming service.
Yeah. It's easy to get into that. You know what's coming out on streaming? I think it's like this week. If you didn't see it, it's Fall Guy. That was pretty cool.
Oh, I haven't seen it. I will watch that.
I think that comes out on Peacock.
Okay,
this
perfect.
week.
I have that only because of the Olympics.
Yeah. Oh my God, the Olympics. Peacock was everything during the Olympics. Did we talk about it?
I don't think so.
I talked about it so much with people because I was addicted to the Gold Zone.
What's that?
Do you know what the red zone is for the NFL?
Yes.
You know, the red zone channel where they like are basically just only hopping to the most exciting part of the game, of whatever
Oh,
game's going on, because there's so many games happening at the same
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So essentially, when a team enters the red zone, like past the 20-yard line, it's like they're going to cut to that game. So like they're going to go to,
Wait, I should watch that. That sounds way more engaging.
right. You're not watching one game. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, the Browns just made it into the 20-yard zone. Let's cut over to them. And then like,
Mhm.
okay, they scored or they didn't score. We're going to cut over to the Rams who's doing this. And so, or there's an interception at this game, so let's cut over there. And sometimes when multiple things are happening, they'll throw multiple games up on the screen. So you're kind of watching all of them and they'll
that's
announce what's
cool.
happening in each one. So you're never watching one game. They took that concept and applied it to the Olympics. They called it the gold zone. And so they're like, okay, now we're going to the gold medal match of fencing. And then they're like, and then they'll like, okay, it won. And oh, it looks like we're about to break a world record in swimming. So they cut over to swimming. And then all of a sudden, multiple things are happening at the same time. You're watching skateboarding in one window. You're watching all these other ones. And my whole family, we'd wake up, or I would like leave or go somewhere. I text my, what are you guys doing? Like, we just got gold zoned. Like, you just, because there's no commercials. It just keeps going. It keeps cutting between
so
things.
Good.
So,
Wait,
like,
I should have done that. Because at my internship, we would have the Olympics playing in the background. But if you share your screen with Peacock, it'll stop the.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then we'd all just be like huddled around one screen trying to do our work and we'd miss it. We miss like so many things and no one would be changing the channel. But if I knew about that, that would have been awesome.
Gold zone. Yeah, gold zone was great. So, but for football, if you know somebody that has red zone, because you have to pay for it, red zone is a great service. Because yeah, same thing for me is like sitting in one spot to watch a 3-hour game is really not that exciting. Oh my God, that's what we didn't talk about.
USC football.
Yes, first game this weekend.
I'm out of town, unfortunately.
Well, it's not here; it's in Vegas.
Well, I'm not really involved in football anymore. I feel like once we switched to Big Ten,
we just did. You haven't even had a game yet.
I know, but I just checked out. I don't know why.
It seems like you just are looking for reasons to check out of many things.
Senioritis is really setting in, guys.
It seems that way. You're like, I don't know. I'm down.
Because I was really excited for football season because when you're playing a lot of West Coast schools, you just know more. Because I'm from OC, so you know a lot more of the rival schools and people at the schools. You get to talk a lot more smack with the competition. Now that we're in a different division, I couldn't even name the schools we're playing, to be honest.
Well, we're playing a lot of the same ones because we will always have Notre Dame on our schedule.
Yeah, I love
We'll
those
always
games.
have UCLA in our schedule. Washington and Oregon came to the Big Ten with us.
Oh, I thought it was just UCLA that came with us.
No, this is how out of date you are. Once we left, teams started leaving because we took UCLA with us.
So who's still left in Pac-12?
There isn't a Pac-12 anymore.
Oh.
It's completely dissolved.
So all those schools moved to different divisions?
Not all. Some are left, and I think they're trying to figure out what they're going to do with them.
Oh,
like
that's
Cal
so
is by
sad.
themselves. And
No, that's the one thing I regret not doing. I've always wanted to go to a weekender game at Cal. And then.
Well, yeah, it's not going to happen again. Those are done. That was the last one.
Damn it.
But no, so we've got some opening, like this weekend's game is really interesting because we're playing an SEC team. We're playing LSU, which is going to be a big game, and we're playing in Vegas.
All I know about LSU is that their dance team is really good.
Well, their football team is really good too. Preseason rankings were ranked 23. They're ranked 13.
Yeah, okay, that's another reason I also checked out. I know we're going to get smacked this season.
Well, no one knows what's going to happen to us, right? I mean, new quarterback. It was the end of the Caleb era is gone, and so our Miller, who came in this last year, did great at his final game with the Holiday Bowl. But this is kind of a big question mark. We got potential, which is why I think we're ranked, and then we're going up currently against a number of different ranked teams. We got Michigan, which is going to be insane.
Michigan's good, right?
Yeah, they're ranked number 9 right now. We got Penn State, which is going to be huge. And then when we get all the way down to the end of the season, we got UCLA and Notre Dame. And Notre Dame is ranked 7 this year because they came in strong the last couple of years. Interestingly enough, Washington is not ranked, even though they were ranked last year and did quite well. So who knows? It's going to be an interesting game. And then our other team, so we're playing like our league Big Ten now. Now we got Wisconsin on the schedule. Like I said, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Penn State, Maryland, Rutgers, Washington, Nebraska, UCLA, and then Notre Dame. So it's going to be an interesting season.
Crazy lineup. I'm probably still only gonna make it to the Notre Dame and UCLA games.
That's fine. That's fine. I mean, I'm of the take where you're like, I still have many friends that plan their entire weekends around USC football, and I don't. And I'm like, oh yeah, when's the game on? Oh, I'll catch it and I'll watch it. I'll be into it. But like, I don't go hardcore. It's a little bit too much for me at one point.
Yeah, I get that.
But this season kickoff should be interesting. Sunday night. So when this comes out, 4:30 prime time for the East Coast versus LSU, which is going to be a crazy, crazy game. So we'll see how it turns out. Anyway, with that, we've wrapped up this conversation 5 different times, and now we're out of here.
Final end, promise.
We hope so. All right, everybody. We'll see you next week. Maybe I'll be there. Maybe I'm not. We'll see next week for another episode of Viterbi Voices. Bye.